When he was leaving prison, all he could think about was, where am I going to sleep? What am I going to eat? And then Returning Home came, a program that serves individuals leaving incarceration. We all know that housing is the basis for stability. When someone leaves prison and they don't have that stability, they are more likely to go back to prison.
Where do you see the criminal justice system going?
It's hard to say.
Yes,
in
it
this
is,
environment.
especially in this time. A young lady that's in the program, she did 25 years for murder. She went when she was 17 years old.
Oh, wow.
Now she has her own cleaning company. She's doing awesome.
Most people won't even know that there's somebody who is formerly incarcerated living as a neighbor because they become really good neighbors.
We measure recidivism.
Rates are all over the place, except yours is 1.4, right?
Yeah.
Which is extremely low, which means the program works.
Right, the program works.
How do we duplicate this? One of the leading causes of homelessness is people leaving jail or prison with nowhere to go. And when someone is released with untreated mental illness or addiction, nowhere to go usually turns into the street. The street turns into survival. Survival turns into violations, new charges, and people cycling right back into incarceration. Today's conversation takes a deep dive into Returning Home Ohio, a cutting-edge program that breaks the prison cycle with supportive housing. It reduces recidivism, saves lives, and saves taxpayer money. Because jail is extremely expensive, and leaving people outside is both inhumane and costly to taxpayers. My guests, Terri Power and Jenee Jenkins from CSH, Corporation for Supportive Housing, work on the front lines of this every single day. And what's especially powerful is that Jenee had the idea to tell these stories on video, which led to a collaboration with Invisible People and CSH that produced a documentary. You've got to watch it. There's a link in the description. Please listen to this podcast episode, watch the film, and share it with everyone you know. We just did an interview with returning home clients and a landlord, which will be in a link in the description. I got emotional, and it's all Jenee's fault. So tell us how this started.
Oh, wow.
Because you shared to me one time over a Zoom meeting, because it was your idea. The documentary in the link below, which you all need to go see, is Jenee's fault.
Oh, wow. I was working for Returning Home. I was doing the Returning Home program. And when I would go out and do site visits, I would go and see the clients. And hearing their stories, I felt like needed to be shared more than just with with CSH, but also with landlords, with other providers. And so I went to our director at that time and was like, hey, I think we should do a video. Well, then I took over a CTP program. I was like, well, we're going to do both programs. So I tried to do it. And we did it with my phone, and it was not successful. So we said, well, how can we get it going? And they got a hold of you, and here we are.
How did Invisible People come up?
Ryan Moser
was
very familiar with your work. He loved your work, and he knew you had a much
he's
stronger following. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So this is the brilliant woman that came up with the idea, and then Ryan was the advocate.
And it just took off from there.
It did. So how about we continue, and Terri, tell us about Returning Home.
Well, Returning Home is a program that serves individuals leaving incarceration from state prison. ODRC pays for it, Ohio Department of Rehab and Corrections. They are very forward-thinking when it comes to community investment in making people successful when they reenter from incarceration. So they pay CSH to run a statewide supportive housing program. We all know that housing is the basis for stability. And when someone leaves prison and they don't have that stability, they are more likely to get back into trouble and go back to prison.
Yeah.
So we offer that, but not just housing. We offer them housing with services. So returning home provides both of those things,
which is
housing and services.
which is extremely important. And we did a bunch of research, and we had some back and forth about the numbers. And recidivism rates are all over the place, except yours is 1.4, right?
Yeah.
Which is extremely low, which means the program works.
Right, the program works. We measure recidivism in both programs by the number of people who are housed at the end of a given program year, which would be any June 30th. Our program year is July to June, and all of the people who exited to a positive housing destination, which could be taking over their lease, or it could be moving in with a family or friend, or getting married, or starting a family. And then we divide that by the number of people who leave for prison. We don't follow them after they leave, but it's the number of people who have left for prison.
Right. And why is that number so low?
I believe it's the services that we offer and them being secure and knowing that they have housing. A lot of people, when they come out and they're being released homeless, they go back to the same behaviors because they don't have anywhere to go and they need to make money. Whereas them coming into our program, they have stable housing. They have people that care, that come out biweekly to check in on them. They provide the services, and they encourage them to utilize other services, be it mental health or substance abuse classes or whatever. So, yeah.
From my understanding, this is a very unique program.
It is a very unique program. We would love it to be in many other states, but it isn't right now. There are some initiatives done locally in communities across the country, but nothing that is statewide.
Right. Hopefully, with this documentary, a couple podcasts, maybe an impact campaign, and a whole lot of prayers, right? We're going to be able to duplicate or implement, or however you want to say, returning home Kansas, returning home Nevada, returning home California, returning home Illinois.
Yep.
Yes.
That's what we're hoping for. When CSH is really focused on that this year.
Yeah, it's important. It's important because not only is the cost of prison rising, but the amount of people going into prison is rising, and we have to do something about it. A vast amount of people that enter into homelessness are coming from institutions, and the primary is jail and prison. So if we don't do something, you're going to have more homelessness, which just is horrible, and you're going to have more prisons.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And it enhances community safety as well.
Right.
If someone doesn't have a place to live, they're more likely to commit a crime than if they have a safe place to live.
Right. Why do you do this work?
Well, I'm a social worker, so I went into this field a long time ago. So I like to be in the helping profession. Working with individuals leaving incarceration is new to me from my last couple of jobs. So that part is new, and I just didn't realize how vulnerable, how much they needed, that they deserve a second chance, and they should be given one. They've already paid their dues, and I just think it's human dignity that we should help them with that.
For me, I can go back to when I was a child and my mother was incarcerated. And I know what it felt like not having my parent around. And then when she coming out, the challenges that she faced coming out. And then I worked in workforce development for years with individuals that came out of incarceration. So this is another side, the housing, but you can't work if you don't have somewhere to stay. So when I got into it, it was like, we need this. We need housing to get people stable so that they can work.
As homelessness grows, people are getting frustrated, and they're pushing for laws that criminalize homelessness, which will only make the problem worse. Invisible People reaches more people, educating them on homelessness than all other homeless sector nonprofits and campaigns combined. But we do it on a limited budget. We don't have the funding they do. We are mostly funded by individual donations. And now that the economy is struggling, individual donations are disappearing, and we need you. I get it. You might not have the money to donate. Many people are struggling right now. Please share our content, share our videos. It really matters. And if you do have some funds and want to help be part of the solution to solve homelessness, please visit invisiblepeople.tv/donate. Our important work stops without you. There's a couple of moments in the documentary that stand out. I mean, it's a really good film. And the one, and I'm going to play off something you always say, is that landlords become your best advocates. Mm-hmm. There's a woman in the film who did 11 years for arson. And there's a landlord in the film who, and we'll link to the podcast below because we just had them on. There's a landlord that became friends with her. I think that's really special because the landlord, one of the toughest is somebody that has, it's somebody that did time for arson.
Yeah.
That means they were proven, in a court of law for a landlord to agree to that for a tenant that is has that history. It's quite a miracle. And then they became friends.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, she took a risk and she knew it, and it was risky. But there's also the benefit of guaranteed rent.
Right.
And having a case manager to call if there's issues. I mean,
Yeah.
you have issues with regular tenants, but you don't have somebody to call to help you with them.
And that's
said it
what
was
well, go ahead.
She said it was like having a built-in property manager with the program. And having that case manager as the buffer not only helps the landlord, but it also helps the tenant.
And the landlord doesn't have to pay for that. So if the
Right.
landlord was doing a property management team, they would have to pay a percentage or some kind of cost associated that would cut into profits, I guess you would. And then there is another landlord who's more of a real estate developer. And I love what he said. We could have 10 openings, 20 openings. I just make a call and we fill them up. Then he continued that, he has less problems with the clients from returning home than he has, market rate renters.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and he's a businessman, so
Right.
he's not going to make any bad business decisions
Right.
either. So, and he has talked on a panel to our providers to tell them what to say to landlords to try to get them. So he's been super helpful to us.
I know in supportive housing in general, it's just hard to find landlords.
Yes.
Right? And then now you're doing people that are coming out of the prison system. It's got to be even harder. So where do you start? Where do you start when you're looking for landlords?
Well, it's our providers that look for the landlords. I think they start with just, sometimes it's cold calling, but a lot of times it's the one landlord you do find. Looking for smaller, what we call mom and pop landlords, but looking for smaller landlords,
Like Chanel.
not big, not big business owners. And then once you find them, they have a good experience, then you ask them to refer to other landlords. I don't know, Jenee, if you have other insight into how our providers do a lot. It's a lot of work.
Right.
It's a lot of work finding landlords. So
And it's all about keeping those relationships. So not just finding them, but developing a rapport with them so that when we have other individuals come through, they're willing to rent to us.
Yep.
How many clients currently in returning home and your other program?
For CTP, we have 142 clients right now.
And throughout Ohio?
Yes, we're in 60 counties and we have 8 providers.
We have probably about 190.
Right. And is it
Currently.
growing? Is it dependent on the housing? I'm sure there's plenty of people coming out.
So it depends on the capacity and the budget.
Okay.
So
got it.
everyone has a certain budget they follow, and that is how many units that they can
Right.
fill. Returning home started in 2012. I think we had maybe 100 and some units. And now our capacity is probably 220 units, but we're not always at capacity because of people coming and going. So it started as a pilot. The part that is hard for other states is that we didn't have to convince ODRC to invest in community integration. That's the part where lots of other people have to start.
Well,
with
you
their
said
state
the state
department.
of Ohio is very forward thinking.
Yes, in terms of corrections. So we didn't have to start there. Many other states have to start there. They have to convince their Department of Corrections that this is an important thing to do.
Yeah.
But we didn't have to start there. What I think the biggest stumbling block early on was the non-time limited piece of it.
What does that mean?
Departments of Corrections are used to transitional housing, which is up to 2 years.
Got it.
But when supportive housing is non-time limited, so there was a lot, and I only know this because Sally Lucan, who was the director when I started, told me a little bit about those conversations that she had with ODRC.
But it's not time limited, but people still exit the program.
Absolutely.
In fact, Heather, one of the Heathers, there's 2 Heathers in the movie, we interviewed her, and she now has a job and is self-sufficient on her own.
Yeah, she's
out
off the
of the
program.
program.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, I think our length of stay is about maybe 26 months.
Okay.
So it's not long.
All right.
It's not long. Some, for better or for worse, people leave.
Right.
And I think it's probably the same for CTP.
24 months
Yeah.
is,
Yeah.
Replicating returning home in other states, it might look a little different.
Yeah, what we've been recommending is that you have to work with your Department of Corrections and see what is their target population, what's their priority.
Right.
And they have to present some data. Sometimes they don't even know who's in their prisons. So a little bit of research and data collection on who is in your prisons, who's leaving, and then narrowing that down to the priority that you want.
Because communities are different.
Communities are different. Yeah.
One of my favorite parts of the film is when I'm walking into the one woman's house and I shared how I always use the word gorgeous. I don't know if I used the word gorgeous, but I probably did. That I felt it was gorgeous how, people are integrating back into community, yet most people won't even know that there's somebody who was formerly incarcerated living as a neighbor because they become really good neighbors.
Your neighbor may be one of our clients and you would never know.
Yeah. Unless they get friendly with their neighbors and they,
right.
they get to be friends, they can tell their own story if they want to, but
Having traveled with you guys, meeting your clients, you guys really have a human connection.
Absolutely. It's rewarding when we go out, especially when I'm going out doing my site visits, meeting the clients, hearing their stories, seeing them thrive. We actually were invited when I was working with RHO. There was a young lady who went through court, GCB, which is our diversion actually, but she went through felony court. And we went down for the graduation. She invited us to come to her graduation. But it's stories like that we hear all the time that makes it so worth it.
yeah. And I think the way we train and orient our case managers for that human aspect, that culture exists throughout the state in both the Returning Home and CTP program.
What does it take to start? I mean, obviously funding, and it comes from the state, at least in Ohio. So what is it, legislation that we have to get the state budget, or how do we duplicate this?
I think it's both. I think you have to go to your state departments and legislation. I think people need to understand what it is, what it's not. That you're not giving these people a free ride when they leave prison, that it's not about being worthy or not worthy. It's about somebody needing a chance to survive and be successful.
Right.
But you have to go at it both, I think, in both directions, politically and with your state departments.
And it's definitely collaboration.
Yes.
Collaborating with housing brokers, providers, case managers, legislation. I mean, it's definitely collaboration.
Yep.
What are some stories that stick with you? Besides the one in the documentary, there's about 4 or 5 people.
We just did a session on returning home yesterday at the summit. I'm just remembering a quote from someone who said when he was leaving prison, all he could think about was, where am I going to sleep? What am I going to eat? What am I going to wear? What am I going to do? Where am I going to go? And then returning home came, and I did have a place to stay. I could eat. And somebody was helping me, and I didn't have to do it all in one day.
For me, one of the biggest ones is I had a young lady that's in the program, and she did 25 years for murder, and she went when she was 17 years old. So when she came out homeless, and she was fearful of not just the being out in the society, but also from the people, the family members that, she took their life. And so when she got out, she was homeless, and she ended up getting referred to CTP. When we took her in, put her in a community that was not where offense occurred. And now she has her own cleaning company. She's cleaning
Oh,
for
wow.
Crumble Cookies. She's doing awesome and actually ready to graduate from our program. So stories like that we hear a lot. And
But it doesn't happen overnight.
it
So
does not.
the other
She's
thing
been in the
about
program 4 years.
CTP and returning home is it's non-time limited. It's individualized. Whatever you need, however much time you need, that's what we try to provide for you.
And you said in the film that you don't discriminate against anybody, but there's a criteria of addiction or mental health.
Right.
Can you explain that?
So supportive housing works better with individuals that have a disability who need those services to maintain their housing. We also know we can't house every single person leaving prison. I'm sure they all could use some help, but so we had to narrow down who we were going to serve.
Yeah.
So we decided to serve those with a severe and persistent mental illness, and in CTP, those with a substance use disorder.
And people don't realize that there's drugs in prison.
Absolutely.
People are overdosing in prison.
Yeah.
So this idea that, criminalizing homelessness and locking people up because they're addicts, they'll get sober in prison is,
No. All they'll do is get more of a barrier against when they get out.
Yeah.
So now that not only homeless, they have a criminal record.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Where do you see the criminal justice system going?
it's hard to say
Yes,
in
it
this
is,
environment.
especially in this time.
in this
Yeah.
environment.
Yeah.
There's a lot of hope in smaller communities that are trying to do things. Cook County, right here in Chicago, Nevada's trying to do something. There's California's working on a bill. So there's pockets
Right.
of hope and inspiration going on, but there's also, I think, continues to be the stigma around people who are in prison.
Now, a little backstory. There was a woman in the film. She wanted to preview her story. So one of the highlights for me was very emotional. And when we were playing the film for this woman, because she could have said, I don't want my story, and we'd have to make some significant changes. And the film is really good as is. Her story is powerful. All the stories are powerful. But it really hit me, and it's partly because of my lived experience and partly how I view being a documentarian, is that we need to be very authentic, and we don't want to change people's stories. Meaning a lot of people say, you need to move here, do these lights, and here bring in the truck, and it's like this amazing production, and we don't do that. We just go in and try to be as low profile as possible and not change the environment, but try to document. And it was really powerful to me, and I'm just sharing my own personal experience, that this woman watched her story and you could see her smile. Right? Yeah. And it's like, oh my gosh. There's several people involved with this production that, are very important people. But it was, Willard and Heather and the other Heather and all the people that are featured. Those were the ones that I cared about. Yeah. Not that I don't care about the others.
Right.
It's the people that are in the film.
Right.
So how did you think it came out?
I thought it was fabulous.
Yeah, I think it has a compelling story for others to be able to view. And I felt they were authentic. And I cried both times I watched it.
Yeah, I think it was very, very impactful.
Absolutely.
And hoping it can change some hearts and minds of some.
Absolutely.
Did it
some
represent
people.
the program?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Cool.
100%.
It's going to get me teary again.
For the staff and the clients. I think the staff were also very authentic because
Yes.
they are very committed
Yes.
and believe in this.
We
program.
heard that, so we did a documentary on Hennepin County, and I just ran into one of the leaders of homeless service. I ran into her in a conference, and I know they had apprehension. I understand, there's a lot of media that comes in, and they're not on our side, if you would, right? But so I asked her, and she says we felt seen.
Wow.
And that really,
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow.
By the time this airs, the premiere tonight is already going to be over. The film will be online. Everybody should go watch it. And the panel will be over. Are you guys excited about tonight?
Absolutely.
Very excited.
Yeah.
So many people have come up like, we can't wait for the film tonight. Yeah.
Proud
very
and excited.
proud.
Proud and
Yes.
excited to be part of it.
So-
We're going to do something in Ohio probably in July
Okay.
and invite lots of people statewide.
In us, are you going to invite me and Alex?
Sure.
Sure.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And is there going to be food?
Absolutely.
If you come, we're going to have food just for
Well,
you.
that when we're traveling to every different city, Terry made sure there was food.
There's food.
Always,
Right?
always.
Yeah.
I don't miss a meal.
We don't miss meals. We do not miss
Is that an
meals.
Ohio thing or a CSH thing?
I think
Ohio and CSH.
I think it's
Yeah,
both.
More of Ohio, though.
Yeah, maybe.
That was
Yeah.
great. Is there anything that you'd like to add?
Well, we thank you for taking the time that you did and being patient, because we were nervous in the beginning, but being patient with not only the participants, but with us as well. I believe it's going to change lives.
Okay. You said we were nervous in the beginning. When did you stop being nervous?
Today. No, when I saw that you were authentic and you really cared about
Yeah.
our participants, because people could come in all the time. It's a job,
Right.
but when you know that people really care about our participants,
And that, you know, my whole thing is communication and messaging. And
Yes.
I even presented on the conference here. And one of the things that nonprofits, and it's not that anybody's bad, it's, video is now a thing, and then they go out and they hire a film producer or a marketing agency that just doesn't know how to tell stories, and they don't have the sensitivity or the experience and knowledge to tell the story of homelessness or somebody that is going from formerly incarcerated to supportive housing. So I'm not. That's not a sales pitch for us, but what I am saying to the homeless sector is that, hire the right storytellers.
Yeah.
Yes,
Just don't, just because maybe they're great filmmakers and they can make pretty pictures doesn't mean they're going to tell an authentic story of homelessness.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
And you? Any last words?
I'm just really, really hopeful that this film and the focus that CSH has on replication right now, that we can replicate it in some other states and change other lives.
Well, thank you guys for hanging out with me again.
Yeah.
I have a feeling we're going to be seeing each other.
Yeah.
It might happen.
I have a feeling. I have a feeling.